Hi there, I'm Phil Reimer.
And I'm Jackie Reimer. We're with Next Step Ministries.
Yeah, we started Next Step Ministries really about 11 years ago when we started to connect with people on the street as well as people that are that we got to know from being on the street and from different agencies here in the city. And we started to just hang out and then eventually started to teach self-esteem and self-dignity courses. And after that, just found needs that particularly the women that we were serving had, and we started to meet those needs. And so things like helping them move, getting them a place to stay, getting furniture, going grocery shopping, babysitting, going to court, those kind of things, really practical things. And so we started to get other people involved. And once other people started getting involved, we realized that we needed to get this thing organized. So we started to figure out what we were doing, and what we figured out we were doing was just helping people with their next step in life, particularly women that have been sexually exploited on the street and are trying to get out of that. And so we started walking alongside, and now we're starting to train people to walk alongside people as well, and because we're finding that the more support they have, the better chance they have of actually being successful at getting out. Which leads us to a big project that we're doing now, which we're really excited about, and that's the Sparrow House. And I'll let Jackie tell you about
So
that.
Sparrow House is going to be for women who have experienced, usually they've experienced sexual abuse before sexual exploitation has come into play. And so the reason that we want to do this is because there's such a great need for it. We have found over and over again that the programs that are available now just aren't enough. And usually they're short term. So our program, we want it to be long term, and we want to be able to address all of the needs, not just, sort of the physical safety part of the needs, which is very important. But after usually that is done, then we find that, oh boy, there's layers and layers and layers of hurt and trauma and lack of education and all these things, and those things haven't really, in some places maybe they're beginning to start to see that, but they haven't really had a chance to explore because they're still dealing with all their hurts. And so to be able to find a job, for example, would be ridiculous because they've got records usually, they have children that they have to look after, they have family breakdowns, so they don't have the family supports and all that sort of thing.
They don't have an education, so they've dropped out when they're 12, 13 years old and got involved. So they have no education. And then when they do get their own place, they're basically put in an apartment, and now they're supposed to be on their own. So they have no means of getting a job, for one, and secondly, they don't know how to make meals. They've lived on the street all their lives. They don't know how to do laundry and all that stuff. So we're thinking, how can we best support them so they will be successful? Because that's where people relapse. Right after they get out of program, they get their own place, and after a while they realize that they can't make ends meet, they can't get a job, rent is due, they know how to get money quickly, and so they're almost forced back into it. And so we decided, well, why don't we create a place that can meet some of those needs? So in the house, what we really believe is going to be the strength is that we want to create what most people would call family. We want to create a house where people come home, there's somebody waiting for them and saying, hey, how was your day? They'll eat supper together, they'll make supper together, depending on their allergies and all this. Eat together, talk about their next day, set up the day, whether they need to do some budgeting or if they need to do whatever it is, go grocery shopping, make a list, have some volunteers come along with them, show them how to grocery shop or laundry shop or whatever it is, or go down and sign up at Bow Valley or whatever it is. And then the next thing we want is for them to really focus on getting an education. Because without an education, we all know that you barely will work at McDonald's. Even there you need an education now. So if they can get their grade 12, now we can say, okay, so what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah, and even just going for an assessment is totally scary because they feel dumb. They've dropped out at a very young age or, got kicked out of school or whatever. So for them to just go and have that first assessment test is like really, really scary. So if we can just sort of, help them along in that process and then go toward the goals or whatever they have for their educational needs. It's going to help a whole lot. Plus, it'll be a great sort of role modeling for their kids, because their kids, it's probably generation after generation where this kind of a situation has been, and they haven't really seen anything else. So this is really ground, we're starting at ground level here, and that's exciting.
Part of the training for the volunteers is that they will walk alongside the women that we come across. And the reason for that is because it seems like a lot of their friends are all addicts. Most of their social events are around 12 steps, and they don't really get an opportunity to see the rest of their life, or even to explore what their strengths are, their gifts, or what they maybe are meant to do. I'm sure they're not meant to just look at their problems, right? And so we want to encourage them to do that, and to get some people in their lives that can go out with them, not necessarily teach them how to do things, but just live life together with them. So we're looking for intentional friends, really, which goes beyond what agencies can do, and that's what we're hoping to do. And so, we just really believe, and we've seen it work in our lives, where like these young women, we've seen them actually get jobs or go back to school, and we hear on our answering machine that they passed their class. One girl had to go all the way back to grade 1 and had to kind of work her way up, and she did it quickly, but it's really humiliating. And just to have someone there saying, it's okay, grade 1's okay, we'll get through this, we'll get you on your way, right? And so just to have that voice of saying, it's going to be okay, and to kind of, don't go back to your old ways of dealing with things. Let's walk right through this thing, right? And to face their fears with somebody else that can help them along.
Yeah, and a lot of us, we have maybe more supports when it comes to raising kids, for example, and what do I do? He's got a fever, I don't know what to do. Well, they don't really have anybody to call. So there's going to be a lot of reasons for our intentional friends to be a part of their lives, take them, to court and all these different things, right, that maybe should have happened in the past. So we're really, making that step, helping them make their next step as well.
If you can imagine, most of these women have had their children taken away from them. Mm-hmm. So they do all these things to get their children back. Now if they can't pay rent and all this stuff, it makes things really stressful. But even for us, like if our son or daughter breaks their leg or whatever, we just take them to the hospital, think nothing of it. But they right away think social services are going to take them away. They have a bruise on them. They're scared they're scared someone's going to see it because they're going to take their child away. And for a lot of women coming off the street, their children are the reason they're still living. They're why they got cleaned up. And so there's that brief window of opportunity, but then all these fears are sitting there. And they have no drugs to protect them from their fears. So it's just really raw. But we've also seen a lot of women, like these women are smart and they are brave, and they can pursue all sorts of different things, very creative, but they've never had the opportunity. So that's what our hope is from this house, but also we want to have our people that we train walk alongside people that maybe won't necessarily get in the house, but they've graduated from a treatment center or whatever and would like some positive people in their lives. And so that's another hope of ours as well.
Yeah, and most of the time, in some of these other places that they've been involved, they're dealing with their addictions and with all the things that are wrong with them. And what we want to focus on is their strengths, and they all have strengths. And be able to pull that out of them, because a lot of times they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe that they have anything that's good about them. And so being able to do that and then match them up maybe with somebody else who has similar strengths is just going to really help them along that path, rather than just, like if I focused on all my weaknesses all the time, I'd be walking around with my head down all the time, right? And so most of us don't operate like that, but I don't think they understand that, and so just being able to communicate that. And we have done that over the years, and so we're really excited to sort of see how this is going to take hold in Sparrow House.